Hey guys, Marsningen here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today I am here to have a very special discussion about some stuff that I've been seeing going on the timeline, not just with the reveal of the Part 2 units. It kind of happened with the Part 1 units, and it seems to happen with almost every unit that comes out, and that is of course talking about the power level of new units that are being released in the game at 55%. And I have a special guest with me to discuss what's been going on, and that is our boy DATRUTH. So how's it going, my friend?
Yo! What is up?
So, we are going to discuss some of the stuff. You guys have probably seen it. I posted a meme about it yesterday. People obviously are very hot on whenever new units get released and we get to see their details. People will immediately start calcing like their defense and stuff like that. And immediately yesterday, I saw a wave of people commenting about both Goku and Vegeta and Cooler, though, you know, Cooler has the revive and all that kind of stuff, that at 55%, these units are not good enough defensively for things like Red Zone Broly, Red Zone Metal Cooler, and like are potentially getting one shot by their super attacks. And so the whole point of the discussion is, and what the title of the video has probably ended up being, is how powerful should new units be at 55%. So, Truth, I know you commented on the tweet that I made yesterday. You can give us a brief outline. I think a lot of people know already your thoughts on 55% units.
Yeah, well, I'm not really the 55% master, I would say, right? All my experience with these characters is rainbow level 10 links, right? Like, I feel like I'm more so just evaluating units consistently on their max output, right? How strong they are just, you know, when they're completely built up rather than just kind of, you know, pulling one copy and be out of a banner type thing.
Exactly. And I think you said as much yesterday on the tweet that I made, and someone raised a very good point, so I did want to get that in here nice and early, right at the beginning. Obviously, a lot of people do care about the performance of a unit at 55%, because for a lot of people, you know, if you're lucky enough to even pull one copy, that might be as many as you pull, and then for whatever reason, you know, you either don't pull anymore or you have to think about saving for the future. So it is important to know how good units are at 55%, and even as Truth was saying about his personal experience with units, we both still do 55% showcases because people want to see how good they are at 55%. But the point of this discussion is more so about evaluating a unit or like writing off a unit solely based on how good they are at 55%. So there's a couple of points to go over. I know you've mentioned the first one in your videos quite a lot. I know this is probably going to be the most unpopular one, so we'll get this one out of the way quickly at the beginning, and that is of course the fact that, you know, this is a gacha game. So units at 55%, what do you think? They're not supposed to be the most powerful units in the game.
Well, yeah, like, you know, one of the points of Red Zone and Power Creep and everything is they want people to summon, right? They want people to be like, oh my god, like, there's this new banner with this new character that could help me beat the stage I can't beat. I guess I need to summon, right? Oh, I don't have stones, I guess I'll, you know, put a little bit of money into it, right? Like, Dokkan, for years, like, they've done this forever. I'm sure most gacha games do too, where Dokkan will drop a stage and then they'll release a lot of help for it. You know, we both have done our no item runs. Wicked Bloodline Extreme Super Battle Road was a tough stage when that dropped, what, in March of this year or something like that?
Yep.
Like, it was tough. Now, dude, LR Golden Frieza, LR Final Form Cooler, now we have LR Metal Cooler, EZA, like, Angel Golden Frieza, EZA, AGL Metal Cooler, like, they do this. They'll drop a tough stage, set a standard, and then they'll drop a lot of stuff that will help players beat it.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like, Dokkan has had, over the years, you know, they've introduced new things. They're definitely a bit more generous. I mean, if you've been playing for years like we have, like, you'll remember the days when even a whole celebration, you'd be lucky to get, like, a couple of 100 stones, maybe. And now we have celebrations that are regularly giving out, like, 1,000 stones for free. And so, yeah, this is a point that not a lot of people like, but at the end of the day, the whole point of a gacha game is to make money. If they just release a unit that you pull one copy and now you can just beat everything in the game, then You know, why would you summon for extra copies? I mean, some people obviously always will because they want to see that full experience. It is, you know, in part to some people a collection game, but obviously they have to have that gacha aspect. So we get that point out of the way because I know not everyone likes that one, especially free-to-play players. But then we move on to what is a bit more important and what Truth started to hint at is the whole point of end game content. So things like the Red Zone, we've got new stages coming out now. Cell Max is kind of an outlier because of the way that event works. But end game content is supposed to be the hardest content in the game. Depending on how long you've been playing, we'll use the Wicked Bloodline Red Zone as an example. If you haven't been playing the game for super long and you can't beat all of the Wicked Bloodline Red Zone stages right now, that's fine. You've got time, new units are going to come out. It's not necessarily designed for everybody to be able to beat these events on day one. And that's kind of the point of endgame content, because I've seen one of the statements that I've seen going around, which again inspired this video, is people saying that new units when they come out, especially Dokkan Fest LRs, should dominate all the content that already exists in the game. So what are your thoughts on that and what this means for, like, you know, what is endgame content supposed to mean?
I mean, I could certainly see the argument there because we're talking about Dokkan Fest LR, right? Like, that typically is the pinnacle. Recently, with the 7th anniversary Power Creep, which is, like, one of the biggest jumps I feel like the game's ever made, there certainly was a fall-off in a lot of Dokkan Fest LRs, but the two that had come out, right, were the LR Gods and LR Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta stood at the top. Then they dropped Trunks and Vegeta, right? Same thing. Kind of just like stood at the top and was dominating everything. I could see a little bit more with Dokkan Fest LRs of how, like, kind of like the intention is that they would be able to dominate. But, I mean, at the Goku and Vegeta as a Dokkan Fest LR, I feel like they will dominate at 55%. I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but they've got damage reduction, they have a great link set, and their team is, I don't know, a little good. Like, I feel like they'll be fine.
Just a little bit.
I think they're going to be fine.
Because the thing I saw is, like, the calcs, people were saying that they're going to take, like, over 50k even after a double super from normal attacks from, like, Red Zone, Broly, and Omega, which, obviously, depending on how many times you're getting attacked, that could potentially be a lot of damage. But again, 55%, even at 55%, because they're AGL, they could potentially triple super. But again, it comes down to how powerful do we expect units to be at 55%, because you guys, probably a lot of you know, I do have a side JP account that is completely free to play. I have Trunks and Vegeta, the Gods and the Super Saiyan 4s all at 55%, and I still can't beat Red Zone Broly. So the rest of my box is not super great, obviously. It's not as, like, I don't have all the options like I do on Global. But just having some of these units with no dupes, they're not like auto wins for some of these stages. And the example that I thought of, again, is when it comes to things like MMOs, because a lot of the time when people first started talking about end game content, you're talking about, like, raids where you not only needed multiple people, but you needed, like, fully maxed out characters, full teams, like strategy, all this kind of stuff. So it's kind of like the equivalent of if an MMO brought out a new class, should that class be able to just dominate every single raid without being, like, fully maxed out, fully leveled? Because obviously we can see the opposite end of the scale of the argument, like a new Dokkan Fest LR at Rainbow full level 10 links, then yeah, they should be dominating all the content. But the discussion is around 55% and not Rainbow. So the final point that I made, that again we have alluded to slightly, is power creep. Obviously events have been getting harder and harder, and as Truth said, sometimes they'll drop an event that seems ridiculously hard, and then units will come out that are more powerful in order to beat it. But if we start getting into a cycle where the new unit comes out at 55% and it destroys every single event that's available in the game, what is the next difficult event going to look like? So that is the next sort of point that I would put to you. If we started getting 55% units that were completely dominant, like, people have already complained about how quickly power creep has exploded over the last year. So what do you think that could mean for the future?
I mean, I definitely think that this year is a bit of an, like, it seems like a lot of people just didn't understand that, like, we were sort of in the same type of, like, meta or whatever, you know, 150 and 170% leader skills for years. That's why there would just be sort of these just, like, small kind of incremental increases, right? Whereas this year, like, with them actually pushing it up to 200% leader skills, things have changed, right? They have sort of pushed the boundaries, I think, a lot more, right, with that.
Yeah, exactly. Because like people complained. I mean, again, we've mentioned it's kind of an outlier. I think they said in that JP live stream that they don't intend to be bringing out events that are harder or even at that same level. But it's like if we get to a point where every unit at 55% is beating like every single red zone stage, we're going to see more events dropping that have the difficulty of like Cell Max, which a lot of people complained about when it first came out as being too difficult. And obviously,
yeah, but always... I mean, we've seen that for years, right? The original Super Battle Road, I specifically remember people being, Chaozu is dominating me. This isn't fair, right? Because that was fun. What's funny about Super Battle Road is it was all these like characters like 19 and 20 and the Z fighters, right?
Oh man, I always remember because it's been brought up recently. Like the OG Super Battle Road when it first came out, it was so much fun. Like seeing. Back then, I don't think I even made content, but I watched streams of people like Rhyme and Nano and stuff. Just it would take them hours to beat one stage because it really was this like new level of difficulty. And the reason why I always loved Super Battle Road and kind of why we even started, you know, getting into the no items run, the whole Super Battle Road Kings, all that kind of stuff, is that it kind of brought back those units that could stun and seal because they'd been sort of forgotten in the meta, which is kind of what's happened again now because all the endgame content, you can't really do any of that stuff. So OG Super Battle Road was definitely a huge jump up in the difficulty. And so, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, as like a final closing thing, what would you say, like, what do you think people's expectations realistically should be for new units when they're at 55%?
New units at 55%. I mean, certainly you'd want them to be able to hold up at least to an extent, right? Yep. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like taking 20k per normal from, like, the hardest boss in the game at 55% is probably fine, is it not? Because that means Rainbow level 10 Links, they're going to be good, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The other thing people need to realize is that when you start introducing, like, guard and damage reduction into the mix for some of these characters, maybe the normals will do damage. But, you know, Goku and Vegeta are not taking as much damage from a super attack as a character that just has high defense, right? Easily double-digit tanks these bosses. But they will get hit by the super attack much harder, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, again, like 55% units, you want them to be able to hold up. But it's just a standard that we see a lot for units is, you know, the hardest bosses in the game, there are very few units that fit into that slot where they can tank their super attacks, especially with no items active. But yeah, there always seems to be an outcry when a new unit comes out and it's like, oh, they'd get one shot by AGL Broly. It's like, okay, same with, you know, 90% of the units in the game. And units have different roles, which is the thing as well that I think people need to think about more as well. Because, you know, like Tech Super Saiyan Goku, he's designed to be a slot 1 unit. If he got one shot by Broly's super attack, that would be quite disappointing because his role is to be a defensive unit. Whereas units like Goku and Vegeta, even though they have that damage reduction, for me it feels like they have that as kind of like a backup. And in the early turns, if you've got bad starting rotations, they can cover slot 1 for you. But their role is not to be a slot 1 unit. Because they get multiple supers, they raise defense on super, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, overall, I think 55% units, they need to be good, but they're never going to be absolutely destroying everything, aside from the odd, you know, I'm sure there's been anomalies in the past with crazy good easy A's and things like that. So, are there any final points you would like to add before we head off here?
I love Dokkan. I think Dokkan is moving in a fine direction with things, right? Like, it's good that they've dropped these red zone stages. And they've dropped a lot of different types of tough content these days, right? To actually be able to test out the capabilities of these characters, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, and I like the fact we're seeing, like, the fact they've added missions to the older red zone and stuff like that. Because a lot of people, you know, we showcase off the new units in the red zone all the time. And there is some of this viewpoint from people who obviously, especially when you don't make content, is why would you play Red Zone Broly again once you've beaten it for the first time?
There was a lot of smart asses who said, I'm gonna beat it one time and then never touch it again. Well, guess what? No, you're not. You're going right back in.
Yeah, now we have multiple different missions. Loving the 3 attempts per day thing still, by the way.
Yeah.
I've been trying to record a beating it without a 200% leader, and I keep getting caught. So I'm loving that 3 attempts per day. But anyway, so that is going to be it. I just wanted to make a brief discussion here with Truth, as we did talk about it very briefly yesterday, about the standard for 55% units. Obviously, I'm very interested to know what you guys think down below. Obviously, I don't think 55% units should be terrible, and you should have to summon for dupes for them to be good. But I also think it's kind of crazy to be expecting them to absolutely dominate the entire game without having to pull those extra dupes and actually maximize them to their full potential. So shout out to Truth, thanks for coming on for the discussion, and let us all know what you think down below in the comments section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.